Hello everyone. Today we'll be taking a look at this fake Lego Technic McLaren P1 set. Now just like my previous G500 set, this one was also sourced through a group order directly from China. Therefore we don't have any packaging and we'll get right to the unboxing. Now here we have two big packets to unbox. I'm going to use a reliable pair of scissors to cut through. So you've got two huge bags over here. The first one has a lot of the big pieces, and then we've got the second one with the tires and the other parts as well. The bags do seem to be numbered. As you can see, it says 14 by 1 over here. To start off with the instruction manual, we've got a beautiful picture of the finished build for the McLaren P1 up front, and we have a nice image of the actual car, of the actual McLaren P1 at the back. We straight away start off with the instructions, of course. It's a huge manual and really good high quality paper. Now we're just about to start off with the actual build, and I want to highlight that we do not have any sticker pad for this one as well, just like the Ferrari Daytona in the previous video. We've got some printed plates instead, and I can see some nice McLaren plates along with the P1 logo plate over here. So here we are about 1% done with this build. We've just made this new style differential and added a couple of gears which are working quite smooth. So far loving the quality of pieces. We've got a total of 1000 steps in this build, and therefore we're down to step 10 right now. So here we are about 5% done with this build. We've added the rear axles as well as the rear suspension, and the differential seems to be working pretty fine. So here we are about 3 hours into this build and about 10% done, and we've added a couple more gears, and this is what we're looking at. Here we are about 4 hours into this build and about 13% done. We've added these small pipe like structures on top, if you can see, as well as these nice gold bits right here. So the rear seems to be coming along quite well. Now we're just about to start with the gearbox. So here we are about 6.5 hours into this build and 25% done. We've built the gear system right here, which is a little more elaborate compared to the last one I made on the Ferrari Daytona. So another 15 minutes into this build, we've just built this engine bit over here. We've added our first printed plate, which has the McLaren P1 logo, and really nice looking engine. The pistons move around just fine. So here we are at about 30% done with this build, and we faced our first problem of a missing piece. So an axle similar to this one, an 8-stud long axle, should have been there. Instead we found this broken plastic piece of sorts. So that's a major problem. I cannot go further with this build. I'm going to try building on whatever separate parts are required, but we won't be able to build further since this is going to be an integral part of the build. It goes somewhere over here and connects one of the main gears, and we'll have to look for a solution now. So after a short break from building, thankfully the group admins came through and helped me out with this 8 axle which was missing, and we're about to start with our build. So here we are at about 35% done with this build. We've added this front transmission box structure and attached it to the rear gear assembly that we made earlier. So here we are at about 38% done with this build, and we've made this interesting structure over here which I'm going to showcase. So this is how it works. You sort of push from one end and the elastic band sort of put this gear assembly into place. So here we are done with about 40% of this build. We've added the seats up front as well, and now moving on to the next part. So here we are at about 50% done with this build. We've made the dashboard up front, and if you move right here, we have this small touchscreen sort of a system which is depicted by a printed plate, and we're moving on to adding the steering and other pieces in the front now. So here we are about 60% done with this build. We've added the front axles as well as completed the dashboard. The steering is working quite smooth so far. There's a nice printed plate over here for the speedometer, which is like a digital speedometer right there. And now we're going to go ahead and build the outer section. So here we are about 70% done with this build. We are done with the roof section, and we've just started out with the front. We've added the grille over here, and now we're going to build the bonnet. So here we are about 75% done with this build. We've completed the front section, which includes both headlamps as well as this nice looking bonnet up front, which can be kept up like so. Here we are about 80% done with this build. We've added the doors on both sides along with the rear view mirrors, and I'm just going to show you how they open up. So here we are about 98% done with this build. We've created the rear section, and we're yet to add the spoiler as well as all 4 tires. So here we are 100% done with this build, and I give you the knockoff Lego Technic McLaren P1. Now on first glimpse, I love the way the car looks. It really captures the essence of the original vehicle, be it the aerodynamic body line which flows from the front to the back, or the features that we'll get into in a couple of minutes. Now, since this is a knockoff build, one thing I would like to point out is that the gears are very smooth. If you've seen my previous videos, you would know that these knockoff sets generally have a problem of gears with a lot of friction, which make it difficult for the car to roll, but this one is pretty smooth that way. Of course, minor differences are there when compared to the original in terms of the color scheme as well as the way the parts align. Like you can see, there are a couple of bends here and there, some things sticking out which would normally not be there with original Lego. Now first, let's have a look at the accessories that you get along with this set. Here we have the small briefcase accessory that is included. This can be stored in the front of the vehicle, just like so. And the next is of course that infographic plate, which can be used for display purposes, and it comes with a back stand as well. Now we'll quickly take a look at all the working gimmicks. The first one being the working doors. Of course, I somehow like the door gimmick on this one a little better than the one on the Daytona. Of course, they're very different in the way they function, but I like the look of these a little better. That's just my personal opinion. Next, we of course have the frunk or the bonnet area, which does come with a stand just like the Daytona. Next is of course the spoiler, and I think I love this spoiler gimmick on this one. The way this thing just unfolds, and being a knockoff, I think it's very smooth the way this thing works. Then of course we have the working steering, which is no surprise considering the scale of this build. There is of course a working gear lever, but the gears sadly do not engage properly, so we don't have that gearing function that comes in these sets with the original Lego ones. So that pretty much sums up all of the working gimmicks. I think really neat functions all across the build, well worth the money, and I think my favorite would be the spoiler of course. Now coming to the price, I purchased this set for Rs 8,300 through a group order. Before we get into the final price breakup, I'd like to point out that group orders are significantly cheaper when compared to individual purchases. This is because not only the shipping is lesser, but the cost of acquiring the actual goods is also much lesser when compared to individual purchases. To get to the breakup, this set costed Rs 5,000 to acquire in China, and then we paid another 2,000 rupees for shipping and customs. We had to pay an additional 1,500 rupees, which was after a revaluation for the customs here in India, and that got up to the total of Rs 8,300 to purchase this set through the group order. Well, of course, now it's time for the final verdict. In terms of building experience, I thoroughly enjoyed this build. Except for the minor issue of a missing piece, I think the packets were numbered properly and the pieces were clicking perfectly well. There's tons of working gimmicks, and for somebody like me who likes to play around with these sets once in a while, I think this was a really enjoyable experience. Talking about the price, at 8,300 rupees, which is barely about 1/5 or 1/6 the price of the original, which went on retail here in India for Rs 55,000, I think this was well worth it. Really steal deal for me, and overall I think even for display purposes this looks really nice, so I definitely recommend getting this build. Now in case you're wondering where to purchase this set, I'm going to be posting the link to the WhatsApp chat group in the description box below, along with the individual purchase link for bricksbuilder.store, where you can purchase the set individually. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. We'd love to hear your thoughts, queries or any related feedback in the comment section down below, and subscribe to Petrol at 707 for more such videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.